We do indeed see a lot of panic in this crisis situation that's hitting Italy. This is going hand in hand with warnings from other individuals out there in the financial sector. Even George Soros has come out and given his statement saying that there's a major financial crisis looming. And this should tell you right there, when some of those players are making those comments, that something is in the works, something is in the offing. When you look at all these banks that have central banks, these countries, these corporations, they have central banks that print their money with no backing. They just continue to do this. And what they've been doing, which most people do not realize, is behind the curtain, even countries that they may make you think they're on the verge of war with. You get a lot of homework to do if you don't think that they don't fund both sides. But this exposes it, because countries that should never be consuming your debt or buying your debt, because your enemy wouldn't be doing that in a sense. They wouldn't want your junk currency if it's just going to be debt and they think that it's going to collapse. Why would they do it unless they were in on the scheme? You see, anyone that wasn't in on the scheme gets gunned down in the streets like they did Gaddafi. So now Italy is facing its Greece moment. And as I've said before, Greece is number one in terms of EU debt, followed by Italy, then Portugal, Cyprus, Belgium, Spain, France, the UK, Austria, and Croatia to round out the top 10. So as you can see here, the Italy 2-year yields have absolutely spiked, and they're saying this is the biggest one-day move in history. Now, when you have a company or a corporation, should we say here, because that's what they are. I don't see them as countries, they're corporations, especially when they have all their citizens stamped with a number, an employee number, or your social security number, or whatever. And if you want to look even further, what is D.C.? It's not a part of America. Neither is London. Neither is the Vatican. You see, they all have an obelisk erected on their property within the confines of the little compounds that they have set up within these countries. London, the Vatican, and D.C., Empire of the City, have their own mail service, own laws, own rules. If you haven't figured it out by now, this is what's going on. And within the confines of these areas is where all the orchestration, the strings being pulled for everything that goes down globally happens. With London being the financial sector, the Vatican, the spiritual, D.C., the military. This is how it's been thus far until the big shift. One that I feel is planned. And as you can see here, when you start to see all these things go into motion, what this means, if you're paying attention, is, well, DB Bank, it's already happening. I was going to say, you're going to start to see some of these banks start to buckle. But I warned about it. You're already seeing it. Here's one on DB Bank right here. You can see where things are heading. And why? Because they've got busted manipulating the precious metals, the housing market, and everything else. And what did I warn about? What happens when people get busted and drug into court? Other people get loose lips and get weak in the knees. And people start talking. People start running. And this is exactly what's happening. DB Bank let go a ton of people. And I'm sure that they're wondering who's going to snitch on me next or this and that. And then somebody else will go and say something. And the whole thing starts to come unraveled in terms of each bank, each corporation. So when you have central banks working hand in hand with banks like this, which are supposed to be regular banks out here, filling them with the same money that they're printing, not backed by gold or silver, you're going to run into some issues at some point. It's all monopoly money. It's not backed by anything. And the only thing keeping it strung together is that, let's say, Italy is buying Germany's debt. And Germany is buying Italy's debt. And the same thing you're seeing on the world stage with the United States and China. Yeah, China has been one of the biggest consumers of our debt this whole time. And they don't want dollars. They want gold, not dollars. Sterling pounds, they want gold. And Russia and China have been hoarding it en masse. And as I said in a recent video, Russia's hoards have gone sky high. And you can't even really get a beat on what China has because they're so secretive about it. I'll also leave a link here so you can read into the exact banks tied into this and look at a bunch of overlaying graphs to see where they're all going. They're all correlating. And when you start to see this pattern where they're all trending in the same direction, well, I think it kind of speaks for itself. But you can guarantee that if cats like Soros are out here making comments like this, they've already made their bets. They've already made their moves. And they'll do everything in their power to make it go down in their favor. I'll leave a link. It's been Dabu7.